Have you ever had the feeling that something is very wrong with the world? That life looks like an endless cycle of suffering, exhaustive work and frustrations, without any convincing explanation? What if I told you that this is not a chance? Maybe we are stuck in a control system designed to keep ourselves in ignorance, sucking our energy and preventing us from awakening? Religions, governments, economies, everything seems to work in sync to keep us subdued, selling the illusion of freedom as we follow a pre-programmed routine. But what if we are living, without realizing it, in a hell on the earth, architected by a hidden force that feeds on our suffering? What would you do if you found out that reincarnation is not evolution, but a prison to keep your soul stuck in this endless cycle? If this idea seems extreme, it may be because we were taught to never question it. But in this video, we will unravel the secrets that ancient hidden traditions and ancestral myths have been trying to warn us for centuries. What is really behind human suffering? Is there a way out? If you feel something wrong, keep watching. You may be about to find out the truth that has always been hidden. From an early age, they teach us that the world is a place of learning, a test to become better. But look around you: endless wars, devastating diseases, extreme poverty, and a suffocating routine that consumes our energy. Does this sound like a paradise or more like hell on earth? Human pain and suffering seem to be rules of the game, not exceptions. What if all this wasn't just a consequence of chance, but part of a very well-structured control system? Society offers us distractions, entertainment, unbridled consumption, false hopes of success, so that we do not realize the arrest we live in. The feeling of freedom is a carefully cultivated illusion. We work without stopping, we get older, we lose everything, and in the end, we are discarded without nothing really changes. Are we born just to repeat this cycle of suffering until the end of time? Or is there something bigger, a hidden truth that few dare to face? If this world is a prison, who projected it? Who profits from our pain? The answer may be in old narratives that point to a dark architect of this reality. Before we accept that life is just meaningless suffering, we need to question: are we living within a carefully planned nightmare? And more importantly, is there a way to wake up? Since time immemorial, different cultures have suggested that this world was not created by a benevolent God, but by a manipulative entity known as demiurge. Gnostics believe that this dark force imprisoned souls in a material world full of pain, preventing them from reaching their true divine nature. What if our reality were just a huge illusion, designed to keep us submissive and drained? If all who taught us about spirituality were contaminated by this spiritual manipulation? Traditional religions, which should guide humanity to the truth, often act as gears of this control system, dictating rules, imposing fear, and encouraging acceptance of suffering as something necessary. The idea that we should endure infinite pain to achieve a future reward sounds more like a trick to keep us obedient than a universal truth. What if we are being used as mere pawns in a cosmic game, without even realizing it? The key to getting out of this cycle is the awakening of consciousness. But awakening does not only mean reading about conspiracies or questioning dogmas. It means to break completely with the imposed programming and see beyond the manufactured reality. And this is the real danger to the hidden power that keeps us imprisoned: the awareness that we are not obliged to accept this spiritual prison. But freeing yourself from this matrix requires an essential first step: to recognize that we are within it. We tell us that suffering is necessary, that it strengthens us, teaches us, and makes us better. But look at the history of humanity: genocide, slavery, endless wars, and boundless exploitation. If suffering really made us evolve, should the world be a better place anymore? Instead, we see a repeated cycle of suffering, generation after generation, as if it were an invisible fuel for something larger. Were we programmed to accept pain as an inevitable part of existence? The idea that God gives the most difficult battles to his best soldiers is one of the greatest instruments of spiritual manipulation ever created. If there is something that benefits from this constant human suffering, it is certainly not us. Suffering does not make us wiser, only wears us, weakens us, and arrests us even more on the gear of this control system. The big question that few dare to ask is: who does this suffering really fit? What if there is something or someone feeding on this energy? Pain is not just a consequence of life, it is a control mechanism. It keeps us busy, distracts us from truth, and forces us to live always in search of temporary solutions. As long as we believe that suffering makes us worthy of something bigger, we will continue to be chained to this game. What if, instead of accepting suffering as something inevitable, would we begin to question its real function? What would happen if we decided to stop feeding this gear? Time is sold as our greatest ally, a path to growth, evolution, and achievements. But stop to think, what if time is actually our greatest oppressor? Since we are born, we are hostage to an invisible watch that dictates every aspect of our lives. We get older, we lose strength, we are consumed by haste, and in the end, everything we achieve is dissolved. Time gives us nothing, he just takes us away. What seems like progress can only be a carefully designed illusion to keep us trapped in this control system. We live running against the clock, always concerned about the future or arrested in the past. This cycle prevents us from perceiving the now, makes us postpone our dreams, and keeps us slaves of a routine that never satisfies us. And as we desperately try to enjoy time, he erodes us, taking everything we love. Who established this insane race? And why are we so afraid of being behind? Perhaps because we were programmed for that. If time were really an ally, he would give us freedom, not anguish. But the truth is that he keeps us in a cycle of suffering, constantly reminding us that we are aging and that our existence is fleeting. What if this constant urgency were another form of control, preventing us from seeing beyond? Who dictates the rules of time? And, more importantly, is there a way to escape this invisible arrest? We believe we have choices, that we are free to decide our destiny. But if we look carefully, we will realize that everything around us works like a huge board, where each piece has already been positioned to keep us trapped. Religion, politics, economics, media, each of these institutions is part of a control system designed to manipulate us from birth. They teach us what to think, what to fear, what you want, and all that we realize that we are being conditioned. The illusion of freedom is maintained by a carefully balanced game. We can vote, but the candidates have already been chosen. We can seek success, but within an economic system that concentrates wealth in the hands of the few. Religion promises answers, but often only reinforces submission. The media distracts us, creating narratives that reinforce fear and separation. As we fight ideologies, we are still blinded to the deepest truth. No matter the side we choose, the system always wins. The question few ask is who benefits from it? Why are we taught to accept pain, scarcity, and obedience as natural parts of life? There is a hidden interest in keeping us too busy to question the reality in which we live. And if all this is just a great game, and the only way to win is leaving the board? But for that, we first need to see the invisible rules that hold us. They teach us that reincarnation is a learning cycle, an opportunity to evolve and correct past mistakes. But what if this idea is just another control system gear? What if, instead of a path to lighting, reincarnation is an invisible arrest that keeps us stuck here, without memory and without real choice? What looks like a second chance can actually be a trick to prevent us from escaping from this manipulated reality. Think about it. Every time we die, we are forced to return, not remembering what happened before, without being aware of past errors. How can we really evolve if we start from scratch with each cycle? This selective erasure of memory is not natural, it is a strategy. If we knew who we really are and what our true power, would not accept this game. But without memories, without reference, we are easy prey to continue to rotate the wheel of the suffering cycle. What if true freedom is not inside the system, but outside it? If death is not the end, but a point of control that pushes us back? Many ancient traditions talked about a trick of light, a trap that seduces us to reincarnate, convincing us that we still have lessons to learn. But what if this is not the only option? If there is a way out, it begins with the awakening of consciousness and the questioning of all that have taught us. Are you ready to see beyond illusion? From an early age, they teach us that we are free. We can choose our careers, our partners, where to live, but is this freedom real or just a well-designed illusion? The truth is that we live within a control system that gives us limited options, all carefully planned to keep us inside the gear. We work all our lives to pay bills, follow rigid social norms, and even when we think we are in charge, we follow paths already drawn to us. Society gives us small doses of pleasure to convince us that we are free, a holiday here, a salary increase there, a new product to buy. But in the end, we are still attached to the same cycle: born, study, work, aging, and die. Most people never question this system because it was designed to look natural. What if all this is just a game to keep humanity distracted, always pursuing something that never arrives? True freedom is not to choose from the options they give us, but to question the game's own board. Who defined these rules? Why do most people feel so stuck, even having freedom? What if, instead of accepting this disguised imprisonment, would we begin to look for alternatives outside this system? The key to freeing yourself is in consciousness, but are we ready to see the truth? Ancient myths have always been treated as mere stories or moral metaphors. But what if they hid deep truths about our condition? Figures as Sisyphus, Prometheus, and Adam and Eve can be much more than simple characters, perhaps coded messages about the systemic slavery in which we live. What do these myths really tell us? And why, over the centuries, so many cultures insisted on these same narratives? Sisyphus, condemned to roll a stone upward to see her fall forever, can be a perfect metaphor for our existence. We fight, suffer, believe in progress, but in the end, everything restarts. Prometheus, who stole the fire of the gods and was punished, can represent the punishment given to those who try to awaken and challenge hidden power. Already Adam and Eve, expelled from paradise for seeking knowledge, show how those who question the rules are condemned to live in the cycle of suffering. What do these stories try to tell us? Did the ancients already knew the prison we are in and tried to warn us? Perhaps these myths are not just warnings about disobedience, but guides for those who seek to escape. And if, instead of passively accepting our condition, we started looking for the clues that have been left throughout history? Have we ever had the key to getting out of this system all the time, but were we conditioned to ignore it? If suffering were just an accident of life, why does it repeat itself so systematically? Why does the world seem designed to keep humanity in a constant state of pain, fear, and struggle? The truth can be darker than we imagine. What if human suffering is actually a resource harvested by invisible forces? Ancient civilizations and occult teachings suggest that there are entities that feed on our negative energy, keeping humanity trapped in a cycle of pain to ensure their own survival. Fear, sadness, and despair not only weaken the individual, they create a collective vibration that reinforces the prison in which we live. Wars, economic crises, disease, and mass tragedy may not only be natural consequences of the world, but tools to maintain the energy of suffering flowing. Have you noticed how the media always emphasizes tragedies and crises? How are we constantly bombarded with fear and anxiety? This is not by chance. Suffering may be the true currency of this control system. But what if we could stop feeding this gear? If our pain is used as a resource, then the greatest act of rebellion is to recover control of our own energy. This means learning to see beyond fear, stopping passively accepting the narrative of suffering, and seeking a state of superior consciousness. If there is a hidden power that feeds on our pain, perhaps the only way to escape is to refuse to be a fuel for this game. But are we ready for this change? Since ancient times, we have been surrounded by stories that teach us to accept suffering as a natural part of existence. Mythologies, religions, and even modern narratives reinforce the idea that we should endure pain without question, as if our inevitable destiny. But what if this is not a simple coincidence? What if this collective acceptance of suffering is actually a control mechanism? Have we been programmed to believe that life must be a struggle, when in reality there is a way out that was hidden to us? Our world looks like a theater where each one plays a role without realizing that the script has been written for millennia. The stories of sacrifice, punishment, and submission are repeated incessantly, conditioning us to accept our position as mere pedestrians. The fear of the unknown, the guilt imposed by religions, and the belief that we have no power to change the rules are just invisible barriers to prevent the awakening of consciousness. After all, a perfect control system doesn't need physical currents. It is enough for people to believe there is no way to escape. But what if this great staging is crumbling? Every day, more people begin to realize that something is wrong, that there are missing pieces in this puzzle. What would happen if humanity, as a whole, began to reject the narrative of suffering and seek truth beyond what was taught to us? Perhaps this collective nightmare only keeps existing because we agree to participate in it. The question is, are we ready to wake up? Now that you have seen the pieces of this puzzle, the question that remains is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you continue accepting the imposed rules, believing that pain is inevitable and that your existence is out of your control? Or will you start questioning everything, seek answers beyond conventional narratives, and take command of your own reality? The truth may be uncomfortable, but ignorance is what keeps this control system working. The first step to get out of this gear is to understand that you are not just a viewer in this game. You have the power to break with the illusions, to stop feeding the cycle of suffering, and to seek a path that really makes sense. But for that, it takes courage to challenge what they taught us, courage to see beyond what was allowed to us. Are you ready to take this step? If this content has resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications, because this journey is just beginning. Here, we will continue to explore the hidden mysteries of existence and the tools to get out of this cycle. The truth is out there, but it is up to you to decide if it's ready to see it.